So I'll
All right.
unmute and we're ready to roll.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We will call to order the Riverside City Council meeting for Thursday, August 3rd, 2023 at 6 p.m. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning,
Here.
Mrs. Franklin. Here. Ms. Fry. Here. Mr. Joseph.
Yes.
Ms. Lomax. Mr. Maxfield.
Present.
Mayor Williams.
Here. No absent members to excuse. Everybody's right here where they're supposed to be. Mr. Manager, any additions or corrections to the agenda as presented?
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from Mr. Maxfield to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Agenda is approved. Would you please all join me to rise and pledge allegiance to the flag? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We do have a few very special things happening this evening and a number of guests. The first thing that we're going to take care of on the agenda is just slightly out of order, but we're going to swear in a couple of our firefighters. So if Mr. Kleinschmidt, Mr. Berger would join me at the podium, we'll begin that now. So what we're going to do is we wrap it up with this. If you please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, state your name.
Evan Berger. Matthew Kleinschmidt.
Do solemnly swear
Do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution.
that I will support the Constitution. That'd be great. Let's start this out.
Greater of the United States of America
Of the United States of America
and the state of Ohio,
and the state of Ohio,
and will obey
and will obey
the laws thereof,
the laws thereof,
and that I will,
and that I will,
in all respects,
in all respects,
uphold and enforce
uphold and enforce
the provisions of
the provisions of
the charter and ordinances of
the charter and ordinances of
the city of Riverside, Ohio,
the city of Riverside, Ohio,
and will faithfully discharge
and will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of firefighter paramedic
of firefighter paramedic
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I'm about to enter.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Thank you.
That's all we're standing.
Thank you. You guys have when it's on your photo, you can choose up here by our logo.
I think that's the copy, that's what you're in.
Everything.
Oh, right. Oh, that's-
You're
not, huh? It's funny because the time our colors are blue, white, and black.
Good. Any of this one? Good. Good. Yes.
Jim, the other picture don't break it.
Just turn around.
Act like you like each other. Oh, we got another. Yeah.
Satellite supervisor.
Oh, I would not.
So I was like, I
All the
want-
satellite classes.
Oh,
Yeah, so we have 27 people. Those end up bad inside this finish report.
Right. Send those to this email.
Gotcha.
So I can coach them.
Okay. Well, we welcome Evan and Matthew to our firefighter family in the city. There's also another very special reason we have so many wonderful guests here tonight. And I would ask Chief Taylor and Elizabeth Sheridan to please come to the podium.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members, of council, manager. Pleased to be here tonight with Elizabeth Sheridan, Mayor. She's going to present an award with some other members of her team to some of our firefighters for an exemplary job they did on a run back in May. So I'll turn it over to Elizabeth.
Thanks, City Council, for having us out. We're going to give out a trauma coin. This is a very special occasion. We've only given out, this will be the second time this year. So it's a very highly dedicated award. So I'm the EMS liaison between Miami Valley Hospital and the fire department. So I come out and do a lot of training with them. I also give them feedback on their patients. So my job is also to help correlate and liaison between the hospitals. So I work closely with the trauma program. So I'll have them come up, Lindsay and Dr. Minor.
Hello, thank you guys for having us. So we have 4 members that we would like to recognize tonight. We would like them to go ahead and come forward so that we can present those speeches to them up here. So the board of you that are going to be recognized tonight, we have
Battalion Chief Jim Hart, Isaac Hivner, Phoenix Robinson, and Kyle Blankenship. Another 2 members of the team I'd like to add. They couldn't be here tonight, but were involved in the situation in which we're honoring these individuals were Carl Schneider and Matt Woodgear. Good evening. It's a great honor to be here this evening recognizing these gentlemen. I'm Dr. Minor. I'm an active duty trauma surgeon and also embedded trauma surgeon at Miami Valley Hospital. As she said, trauma coins, challenge coins are not given out lightly. It's only the second time this year that one has been awarded. And it's done on behalf of Premier Health and the EMS Center for Excellence in Miami Valley Hospital's trauma program. In the pre-hospital environment for a severely injured trauma patient, the best that our first responders can do to ensure a good outcome is to quickly deliver these patients to definitive care. That means oftentimes doing as little as necessary in order to not delay transport, but doing as much as required in order to ensure that all the patient's immediate needs are met. Earlier this year, this crew was able to save the life of a patient with severely injured in a motorcycle collision. They were able to quickly recognize that the severity of the patient's injuries and successfully perform an advanced airway skill that is not done very often in the pre-hospital care to assist with the patient's breathing. The patient had significant maxillofacial trauma and was unable to be intubated to secure the patient's airway from above, and so they performed an emergent cricothyroidotomy. It's a skill that's difficult for even skilled surgeons and surgical residents to perform effectively, and to do so in a pre-hospital environment without proper exposure and lighting, sometimes in the middle of the night, and with a patient in severe distress is near impossible in most circumstances. They not only effectively accomplished this skill, but transported the patient to our level 1 trauma center in a timely manner. Their quick and educated response aided in the survival of this patient. We'd like to thank you all for your hard work and dedication, to your family, to the patients, and to this community. Please accept these challenge coins and pin as a symbol of our appreciation for going above and beyond and providing outstanding care to the trauma patient in the pre-hospital setting. Battalion Chief Hart. Mr. Hibner. And Mr. Robinson.
Okay, we should note that this is the second time he has done this procedure.
The residents would call that hogging all the procedures.
All right, get a picture.
And musical chairs here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chief.
Family, friends, guests, firefighters, we have paid for day 5. About 4. Fellowship with the firefighters.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, guys. Great work.
Good question. Yeah. She asked what the coin looks like.
Oh.
I'll ask Jimmy, will show it.
Hey, Jimmy Hart.
Jimmy,
Hart.
Jim Hart,
Jim Hart. Let's get a picture to put with.
Mr. Hart, front and center, please.
Right now.
We want a picture of the award.
Of the, where is your coin or?
We just want to look at take a picture of the
Yeah,
coin.
you need,
Nice.
Can you wear that on your uniform? Take it out of the bag.
probably not for work.
Well, it's.
You don't wear pins while you're working, right?
Sure, why not?
I wouldn't. No, not if you're on. You wouldn't wear it.
Throw it in as an earring. No.
Yeah, a little bit.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Congratulations.
Eyebrow piercing.
Congrats, great job.
Jim.
Thanks, Chief.
All right.
I like that term.
We always called chief, but battalion chief or chief. Yeah.
So we thank everyone for making time tonight, and thank you to our fire staff for showing up in force and showing us just how important they are. We take it for granted sometimes, but this is a wonderful reminder. So thank you. We'll move right along with the business of our meeting. And we have the meeting minutes from the July 13th and 20th meetings that we held. Is there a motion to approve those?
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion from Mr. Maxfield and a second from Ms. Franklin to approve the minutes as published. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Abstain.
One abstention. All right, got that, Madam Clerk? All right. And then if there's anyone in the chambers this evening who would like to comment on any agenda or non-agenda items. We're always accepting citizens petitions, and the forms are in the back of this room. You can turn them into the front, either to the city manager or to the clerk. And we'll move right into department updates, and I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll be brief tonight. I'll turn it over to Chief Robinson in the police department.
Thank you, sir. I will be really brief this evening. Due to the fact we put a lot of things that are updates every week, I just want to be really short this week with you. So I just want to give you just a little bit of update. This month we actually sent Officer Witt and Wargo got certified in NIBIN, which is what we sent them off to do the comparisons to the casings if you have a shooting or whatever. So I may have mentioned this, but I want to make sure I mention it again so they could get it. So Officer Witt and Wargo worked on these all the casings that we had at the odd body shooting. And we were able to connect those with 7 guns that came out of Columbus and have been linked to 2 murders in Columbus. So doing some good work on that. Just some miscellaneous items. As you saw, if you were out there on Tuesday night, the SRO truck is completely finished. Got it's all the wrap. It's got all the radios. It's got all the lights on it. It looks amazing. And we're so appreciative of everybody that was able to help us get that vehicle. We are having a bike rodeo on the at 5200, which is out here in the front of the building here. Am I pointing right away?
Yep.
I think I am. And on August 26th from 11 to 1, that's a Saturday. And Officer Toscani, of course, will be heading that up as he's doing that all through the summer. Last thing, well, second to last thing I got to say is National Night Out. Obviously, it was a very huge success. We're doing a guesstimation of how many people we thought we had there. It was somewhere between 750 and 1,000 people came out. And I know that we ran out of everything except for some chips and some pop, and that was about it. But there was about 700 of those and 650 chips and 300 hot dogs, 300 hamburgers, which was very hot cooking those. I got to be honest with you, but I was there and we had a great time and it looked like everybody enjoyed themselves. So it's a very successful event, I thought, for again this year. Thank you to Toscani and all the other crew that work on that. My team was on point throughout this whole year getting that squared away. And they were certainly up to par on Tuesday. We appreciate everybody that came out there. I appreciate those snow cones because I'm gonna tell you something, the kids love those, and the cotton candy, and the city came out, and hope we're gonna get the ladies next year to do face painting for us. And right, Kim? Yeah, exactly. So we're working on her. She got to get some skills. Exactly. They want to line at their booth. I said, well, get face paint and you'll get a line at your booth at the city.
Just
Aaron.
put your booth closer to the snow cones.
There you go. Something like that. The last thing I want to say is, all these the fire departments here, and I call them fire whackers because, so we have that kind of relationship. But I'd say that they helped me out a bunch when I had my issue at the PD when I was having my problem about 6 weeks ago. And Jimmy Hart was there that day. And they took very good care of me and got me to the hospital. And that's why I'm here today to talk to you. So thank you to the fire department. And I know I say that begrudgingly because it's the fire department. But anyway, thank you guys if you're watching, hopefully.
Well, Chief, it's great to have you back.
Yes.
It really is great to have you back. It was great to see you on Tuesday night, cooking hot dogs, 300 hot dogs, 300 hamburgers.
Yes, sir.
You and Danny on the grill.
Yeah.
It was just a great sight. And the number of people that I spoke to that were grateful to be able to see you there was it really touched me that people were telling that I heard that from so many folks. And I certainly felt the same way. So welcome back. Great to have you here.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Questions for the chief?
No questions, just it was awesome as usual. Riverside does it right.
Yes, ma'am. I think the best one around, I believe.
I'm sure.
We've been talking, we've been asking, looking at pictures are looking much better. So thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you guys too for make that happen as well. Without you guys, we don't get that done either, with your support. Thank you.
All right. And I'll kick it back over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'll kind of pitch in here for the rest of the fire and service updates. And it kind of in light of the evening's events and all the work that went into National Night Out, I kind of gave them the evening off here as well. But quick update on the fire chief recruitment. So the initial round of applications concluded with, I believe, 19 or 20 applicants. So the consultant is trying to whittle that down to about half the size. And then from there, select an applicant pool that will go forward into the assessment process. And that is currently scheduled for the end of the month. So we're very much on track. And I take that as a very encouraging sign. 19 applicants for our position is very competitive, I would say, and right up there with other recruitments that have happened in our region as well. So we are definitely on the radar out there as far as that goes. And another, just to kind of follow on the heels of what Chief said, a big thank you to Chief and to Danny for standing beside a very hot grill for a few hours in the blazing heat to do all the hot dogs, to Officer Toscani for all the work that he did, and to everyone who pitched in for National Night Out, because there are many, many, many hands and more people than I can thank by name right now. But all the departments and our administrative staff who wanted of their own volition volunteered to have an admin booth. I'm just really proud of all the work that everybody did, all the work that went into it, everybody that was there. Roger Diltz actually took a whole lot of pictures too and started to cut together a little video that we may use just to sort of showcase what kind of an event it was. So just truly, I think, a hallmark of what we can do as a team when we all come together to do the work and really and throw a party for our community and start forging some really good relationships with our community partners and our residents. So a big thank you to all the staff who participated in that. And I don't want to leave public service out of that either, because they were there as well with some big heavy equipment showing off the new reach arm mower, which is a great segue into a public service update or two. We have made an offer to a public service admin assistant, so I'm excited to report that. That individual should start here in the next week or so. And we have begun the contract negotiation process with CWA. So as many folks are familiar with, we have 4 labor groups that we bargain with. CWA is the folks that help us operate the service department. So they're out plowing the roads, mowing the grass. That process is underway, and then we'll move into officers, sergeants, and fire over the next 12 months. And then finally, a quick note on schedule. So the August 10th work session, which is next week, we'll have several updates on quite a lot of activity that's been going on over the last several weeks. And the August 17th agenda, just a fair warning, it'll look a little bit longer because we'll have all the ordinances that we're reading tonight. We'll be reading them again. So a lot of it will be old business. We do have some resolutions that we have to knock out by the end of August. And I'll brief you on those at the work session next week. This nothing earth shattering, a lot of housekeeping, grant acceptance kind of stuff. So we will work through all of that. It's a bit of feast or famine though. The way that the calendar is lined up so far, we have a bunch of stuff we have to knock out at the next meeting. That kind of means that the beginning meeting in September is a little bit light. So I'll be back with you next week, but I think we probably are at a place where we could skip the first September meeting and then come back just for the work session on the 14th and then go and have our regular meeting at the 3rd week of September. And that is everything that I had on my list, although I will end with one other final thing, which is that following council action at the last regular meeting, Ms. Holt's promotion is now effective. And so she is officially the community development director. So congratulations again to her, and very happy to have her aboard. That's all I have.
Questions for the city manager? All right, we'll move right along on the agenda. If there's any public comment on any agenda items, this would be the time that we'd hear them. Madam Clerk, did anyone submit any slips to speak for?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move right into our unfinished business, which are 2 ordinances, which will both have their second reading, public hearing, and potential adoption. So the first one we talked about the last time, we've been talking about it for months. We have our updated land use plan, and I don't believe we need another update from the city manager.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right. At this time, I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230832, an ordinance adopting the 2023 update of the comprehensive plan for the city of Riverside, Ohio, and repealing and replacing the 1996 and 2005 comprehensive land use plans.
I will now open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak on ordinance 23-0-832 at 6:25 p.m. If you wish to speak, please state your name and address for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Hearing no one and seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing at 6:26 p.m. Is there any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Denny,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And the second ordinance, again, we've discussed, Mr. Manager, just so I'm correct in stating, this is the cleanup of 1105 in our development code.
Correct.
Got it.
Move to approve.
Second.
All right, we have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Mr. Maxfield. Madam Clerk, should you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230834, an ordinance amending chapter 1105, Development Procedures of the City of Riverside, Ohio, Unified Development Ordinance.
I will now open the public hearing at 6:27 PM for ordinance 23-0-834. Anyone who wishes to speak on this ordinance, please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes. Hearing no one and seeing no one come forward, I will close the public hearing for ordinance 23-0-834 at 6:27 PM. Is there any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach.
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Moving into new business, we have 4 ordinances that city manager referenced a moment ago. And Mr. Manager, the first one we talked about, this is the assessment for the work that we've been doing on some of the roads for sidewalks and curb cuts.
Yep, this is the Honeyleaf. The first ordinance is for the Honeyleaf project, which was part of the 2021 paving program.
All right.
So moved. Second.
So we have a motion from Ms. Lomach and a second from Ms. Franklin. The city charter allows for the first reading of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230833, an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction and repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances associated with the 2021 paving program.
Is there any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Mr. Denny,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And then the next one, Mr. Manager, this is for our annual street lighting assessment.
Correct.
All right. Do we have a motion?
Approved.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Mr. Maxfield. The city charter allows for the first readings of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230835, an ordinance determining to proceed with the improvement of certain streets between certain termini in the city of Riverside, Ohio, by lighting the same with electricity.
Is there any further discussion from members of council? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And the third and fourth ordinances, Mr. Manager, these are the assessments for the sidewalks and curb cuts we've done in the Lynn Haven neighborhood. And
Correct.
There's 2 separate timelines.
Yes, the first is the default repayment plan, and the second is for folks who came to us and needed a little bit more time. So that's why the county requires a separate ordinance for each repayment period. That's why there are 2.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion from the deputy mayor and a second from Mr. Maxfield. The city charter allows for the first readings of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, could you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230836, an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction and repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances associated with the 2022 paving program.
Any further discussion from members of council? Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. And now the 10-year.
Motion. Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Maxfield and a second from Mr. Joseph. The city charter allows for the first readings of an ordinance to be read by title only unless a council member requests otherwise. Madam Clerk, would you please read this ordinance by title only?
Ordinance 230837, an ordinance to levy special assessments for the construction and repair of curbs, sidewalks, drive approaches, and related appurtenances associated with the 2022 paving program.
Any further discussion from members of council? Hearing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Maxfield,
Yes.
Mr. Joseph,
Yes.
Mr. Denning,
Yes.
Mrs. Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Fry,
Yes.
Ms. Lomach,
Yes.
Mayor Williams.
Yes. Thank you. And then we'll move on to resolutions, of which we have 2. And Mr. Manager, could you just refresh us on the first one, appointing a representative to a statewide agency.
Yes, this is a housekeeping resolution. We became members of the Ohio Benefits Cooperative last year. This impacts our health insurance and other benefits elections. We need to appoint somebody from staff to represent us at the OBC. And this resolution allows us to send the HR manager as our official representative to that body.
Moved.
Second.
We have a motion for Mr. Denning and a second for Mr. Joseph. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2860 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries. And the final resolution, Mr. Manager.
Final resolution is a bit of housekeeping, a little bit of cleanup. As part of the annual crack sealing program this year, Ms. Bartlett received a amended scope of services from the construction company, which recommended including the on-ramps at Route 4 and Parchment Road as part of that program. With funds for it inside the fund that we're using to pay for the work. But because the work is over $26,000, it requires council approval. So we recommend that you approve this change order to let us do those ramps as well.
Second.
We have a motion from the deputy mayor and a second from Mr. Maxfield. All those in favor of resolution 23-R-2861 signify by saying aye. Any opposed, say nay. Motion carries.
Real quick question.
Mhm.
Is our procurement policy 50,000 or 25,000?
It's basically the way I interpret it, anything over $25,000 requires council approval through legislation. If it's over 50, it requires a competitive bid process. So we can get quotes for anything under 50. But if it's between 25 and 50, you still have to vote on it. As currently written.
How do you feel about it?
We should talk about that at a work session.
Josh
We'll
has
get
made a
there.
few opinions.
We'll get there.
I've noticed a few opinions. All right.
It's a little low. And with.
Madam Clerk, were there any slips turned in for any comment on non-agenda items?
There were none.
Okay, then we move on to council member comments. And as is my practice, I will start with Mr. Maxfield.
I just want to thank all the staff who participated and helped out at the National Night Out. On Tuesday, it was a great event. Appreciate them and all the work that they put together, put that great event for us. It is probably one of the best in our area. So thank you.
Ms. Franklin,
I have nothing.
Mr. Joseph.
Tuesday is election day. So one issue on the ballot tackles majority rule in Ohio. So if you have an opinion on that, I strongly encourage you to go vote on August 8th, this Tuesday.
Yep, you beat me to it. I was going to say, make sure that you take time on Tuesday if you haven't already. And this is a very important election or important issue that's being voted on. And August elections are not very common. So it's if you weren't aware of it, maybe you weren't watching television or on any internet enabled device in the last 90 days, but it's still something that, as Zach said, you got to pay attention and you got to make your voice heard because this is your chance. Complaining on Facebook doesn't count as a vote. A vote counts as a vote. To the deputy mayor.
Yeah. I had MVRPC this morning. I have a report here that some of you may or may not be interested in seeing. It's a report of the TIP program and how the Transportation Improvement Program is spent and where it goes. Any of you who would like to read the 24-27 TIP includes 266 projects with a total cost of $772 million, of which 54 projects are with a total cost of $111 million are financed with MVRPC regional controlled money. So we're talking big bucks. These are the ones who are, and we are in there. Riverside is getting, I don't know if it's our fair share. We're getting a share. Any of you interested in that? I have the full report.
That a part of the meeting record.
What?
Can we add that to the,
Yeah,
to the minutes?
it is.
You mean scan it in for the next,
Yeah, like the.
put in new stuff?
Anyway, I have copies for anyone who's interested, and I usually give the full report to the city manager. A lot going on. Any of you have been out 35 recently and have seen the improvements being made out there in Greene County. It's a project that has been going on for a long time, just as our project on Woodland Drive has been in the works since 98. That project's been on the books with Greene County and Beaver Creek and the government and the state and all that for a long time. So it's going to be nice. And it took semi hitting a school bus for the state to move that project. So let's hope it's going to be a major safety issue because the truck trains on 35 are a major traffic issue. So hope this is going to slow them down. Thank you.
Ms. Fry
Nothing this week.
and Mr. Denning. All right. Well, with that, we will move to adjourn. There's a motion from Mr. Joseph and a second from Ms. Franklin to adjourn at 6:37 PM.
I want to hang out.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.